A rare dinosaur skeleton rakes in millions at auction. This just 1 week after one of the most famous T-Rex skeletons also went under the hammer, setting a new world record. Our Fox News correspondent Marianne Rafferty has the story.
A dinosaur fossil makes a killing at auction. An Allosaurus skeleton sold at a Paris auction house for roughly 3 million euros, the equivalent of $3.5 million. Standing 11 feet high and 33 feet long, the figure is one of the largest of its species ever discovered.
Its size, quality of the bones, completeness of the skeleton, and specimen found in anatomical connection. These are the four main features that makes me say, okay, this is a high-range specimen.
The Allosaurus, known as the grandfather of the T-Rex, roamed the Earth around 150 million years ago. This one was found at a Wyoming ranch back in 2016 with 70% of its bones intact, making it extremely rare.
It is connected, with fragments coming from the same animal, and very well restored, by the biggest European restoration expert in this field.
This comes 1 week after another historic dinosaur sale. Stan the T-Rex fetched nearly $32 million at Christie's auction house, smashing initial estimates and setting a record for the most expensive dinosaur fossil ever sold. He's one of the most complete T-Rex skeletons in the world, with 188 bones.
Nobody knows how many bones a T-Rex had in life. No complete specimen will ever be found. It's estimated that they probably had about 300.
Stan was sold to an anonymous bidder over the phone. Scientists have urged the fossil's new owner to donate him to a museum or research institution. Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.